V'hinei hatavas hanerus haya b'shemen upsila. Now, making the candle good was done with oil and a wick, kidu, as is known, v'inyan hashemen shebener, and the concept of the oil that's in the candle, hu b'chinas chachma kidu, is the concept of wisdom, as is known. Shebechachma dafka esperiru, that it's specifically that with wisdom that you'll purify. Kumo hashemen shuhu b'chashai, just like the concept of oil that's silent, chulu. Kach hachachma b'chinas betel chulu, so too the idea of wisdom is a state of nullification, and so forth. To understand this, we should first explain what our sages said. B'shem and zayis, with olive oil. The kashem shahazayis mishakeach talmudo shalayin shana, that just like the olive makes you forget your studies of 70 years, so too the olive oil can bring back that study, that learning that you forgot. There's a Mamar that this statement is wondrous at first glance, but the concept is we can, by prefacing the idea of the breaking of the vessels with the seven supernal kings, like it says, and that he ruled and he died and so forth. That this is specifically the 7 lower levels, the emotional attributes alone, and not the 3 higher intellectual attributes. The begim rishonos lo haya shvira klal, that in the first 3 levels of tohu you did not have this breaking at all. Like it says, you will die, but not with wisdom. That is to say, that by chachma there is no death, and there is no falling down at all. Now the breaking of the first vessel, the concept of the death of the first king, who was called Bela, who bechinas adas. That was in the concept of knowledge in das, not bin chachma bina. And afterwards the other attributes, kindness and strictness and beauty and so forth, and he's called Bela because from the language that's used by the cows, that the bad cows swallow the good cows. That the word Bela is to swallow. And you couldn't tell that they were swallowed inside of the bad cows. Is hadas the kedusha, but it's hadas tov v'ra, that the good, that the holy concept of knowledge was swallowed by the idea of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, shu klipas noga mishcha dechavir chulu, which is the concept of evil that you can elevate, the klipas noga, the snake skin. That this idea of the snake skin, the klippa, was covers and hides the knowledge of holiness. Like it says, like Paro said, I'm not aware, I have no knowledge of Hashem. So there is a concept of the klippa covering over this idea of knowledge on the level of das. V'nema Yisrael lo yada, and like Yeshayahu says, that Yisrael didn't know. Ami lo hisponan, and my nation did not contemplate. So that also implies tefuna. However, hine ma'achar shebebechinas hachachma atzma. Now, since in the wisdom itself, lo haya shvira klal, there was no breaking at all. Im kein gam bebechinas ha'aras hachachma shemi'ira gam bevav ksavos me'adas. If so, the wisdom that shines into the six sides, the six emotional attributes from Das, Ulamata, and below, there's also not a concept of breaking and falling down so much. That is to say, the wisdom of the Das and the emotions, the Chokhmah of those levels is above the Shvira. For example, Chachma of kindness, or Chachma of strictness. The wisdom that's enclosed in these levels does not have this concept of the breaking and falling down. And exactly the opposite. On it says that the wisdom will enliven, that is to say, to enliven the dead. This concept of the king that died, that's within this attribute, this concept of death within the 7 lower levels of tohu, the wisdom will enliven this. That the essence of wisdom, it doesn't need the life force, because it does not have death on this level, like it says that you will die but not with wisdom. So what's the point of the life force from Chachma? Is to enliven the others, that it'll bring it back to the state like before the Shvira. It'll enliven it, or even a better state. That is the wisdom of kindness of tohu, that the wisdom will enliven the kindness of tohu that fell and died, and the like of that, and all the other particular attributes to tohu of the world of tohu that fell into the lower worlds of Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya, Kulam, Bechinas, Or HaChachma Shebehen, Mechayosam Chulu, and all of them, the light of wisdom that's in them, enlivens them. And this is like it says in Eitz Chaim, with the concept of the breath that's within the bones. By the revival of the dead, that this is from the light of Chachma, that, and you could ask this question, how is it that something dead can come back to life? And it's because within that dead thing, there's still the level of Chachma, and Chachma doesn't die. So the concept of the breath of life that's still within the bones, so to speak, the within the attributes that fell down and died, so you still have the concept of Chachma of those levels, that are in the 288 sparks, that fell down, Hanishar Bekelim Achashvirasan, that remains, these sparks that remain in the vessels after they're breaking. That's the concept of the Chachma that's within them, Kadei Lachyosan, and that's what enlivens them. It's the Chachma that's within them, the life remaining that you can enliven again. Because there's 3 levels: Oros, Nitzutzim, V'Kelim, lights and sparks and vessels, Chulu, and so forth. Ayin Sham, look over there. I'm not sure which in Eitz Chaim. So look in the Eitz Chaim about Hevla de Garmi. Shemos Avsag Maban Shbehem Nisha Bechinas Oros de Chachma. That is to say, in the 4 names of Avsag Maban, that within them, the different ways to spell Hashem's name, that within them you have the lights of wisdom, Shebechol Shem and Daled Shemos Halalu, that within each one of these 4 names, Kedei Lachyos and Gam Achar Shviras HaKelim, that in order to enliven them after the breaking of the vessels, it's the wisdom that's within them that elevates this idea. Tam Hu Kanal, and the reason is the Fish Bechach Malo Haya Shvira Klal, because in wisdom there was no breaking at all. Alkein Gam Bechinas Ha'aras HaChachma Nishal Achar Shvira. Therefore, even because of this, so even the wisdom that's within the broken levels that remains after it broke, it is able to enliven the sparks that fell. And this is the source of the idea of the breath that's within the bones, like it says, that the soul will mourn upon him in Eov, that after a person dies, his soul mourns him, and that is to say that there's still within the bones a concept of the nefesh, the lowest level that's there, that, so to speak, mourns over his bones. And through this breath, the dead will arise again by the revival of the dead, la'asid, in the time to come. That's why our sages said that specifically somebody that doesn't bow by modim, which is the concept of nullification, which is through wisdom, that's the kind of person that after 7 years buried, their spine becomes a snake, because the supernal snake is drawn from the concept of the breaking of the vessels that was in the 7 lower levels, and the reason for the 7 years that before the spine turns into a snake corresponds with these 7 attributes, and like we'll explain with this idea of 70 years of forgetfulness from eating olives. So the chachma, the bittul, that you bow down by modim, negates this idea, because yamusu v'lo b'chachma ubezeh yuven mashakas bepardes, and with this we can understand what it says in the pardes. Vegam b'shar sfarim, and also in the other books, shichol and lahot sishem and mikol chelke domim tzumei chaim medaber, you're able to get oil out of all the different levels of inanimate plant, animal, and even people. Even from the inanimate, like the pasuk says, and oil from the flintstone, and so forth. Because this is the idea of the oil is the concept of wisdom, biprat, specifically that's found in every single existence, that's in each one of these 4 levels of inanimate plant, animal, and person, like it says, how what a multitude are your acts. You have made them all with wisdom. So within each one of these levels is the chachma of that level, and the chachma of the level is what enables it to be elevated from having it fallen down. Okay, shel shem Kel sheish b'chol malach, as it's known that why is there the name Kel in each angel? That every angel has this as part of their name in general. B'chol malach prati k'mo Michael, Gabriel, like Michael and Gabriel, shu nehid u'dechachmasa. So this name of Kel is the light of wisdom. Haga'os, and in general, the malachim are a concept of what's created from your biur of nitzutzos. So if when you do a mitzvah you create malachim, so of course the sparks that are elevated, it's because of the chachma, like we said here. Therefore, each one of them has this concept of the chachma in it, which is the name Kel in their name. Because acquiring wisdom and acquiring understanding, that's the kana and kana, that's the gematria of yesh, of an existence, and a tenth of this, hainu malchus, the abba ve'ima hu gematria kel. And so a tenth of 310 is 31, and so that's Kel. So 1/10, which is the Malchus, the lowest level, that's within everything, in the sparks that were elevated, that's the lowest level of Chachma that remains. That's the Malchus. So that's the name Kel, and that's why the Kane Chachma Kane Bina, which is Yesh. So that idea, 1/10 of it, is the name Kel, and that's the Chachma that's within the sparks that are elevated in the names of the Malachim. V'od ki Kel hainu ha'ad amin lamed business yivus Chachma bilvad milvad nesiv harishon. Also, the name Kel, that's a glimmer of the 32 paths of wisdom, excluding the first one, the first path. She'alav nemar nesiv lo yado ayit v'gomer, that upon the first path, it's a hidden level. That on this level, it says the path that the hawk didn't know, and so forth, that the vulture didn't know. So just like by the 50 gates of Bina, you have this Shar Hanun, you have the 50th gate, which is beyond understanding. So too, it seems, we have in the 32 paths of wisdom, the 32nd path, or the first path of those 32nd, that is. So that's also this level of this unknown, beyond knowledge. The Gomer B'chein Hu b'me'orei oros yod simin kafei and the Tzemach Tzedek brings also from the Me'orei Or, from Ram Paprish, that it also says this. So this wisdom is the concept of nullification and existence that is in each creation, that within each creation is a concept of true nullification within them. That from this level, they will be enlivened from their falling down by b'shvira of the breaking of the vessels. And like it says that wisdom will enliven its master. And that's why our sages said that just like the olive makes you forget your studies of 70 years. What kind of forgetfulness? The kind of forgetfulness that comes from the breaking of the vessels. Because what is forgetfulness? That is that the level of das has gone away from it, that it's the constant recognition of the thing, even if you know it. So the recognition of the thing, the constancy of knowledge has gone away from this. That's because of the breaking of the vessels, that it also affected das. That was in the first king, who is called Belus, the swallowing. Therefore, the bitter olive, which is from the Klippas Noga, this elevatable covering of holiness, which is called the snakeskin, that its source comes from the breaking of the vessels. That's why it makes you forget your studies of 70 years, that the concept of these 70 years of the midos, that when you have the klippa covering the das, that from the das comes all the emotional attributes. So when you have this klippa covering the das, it affects all the 70 years. But when you crush the olive, and you take out the oil, which is the concept of wisdom, which is the concept of the brain of remembering of the light of Abba, of Chachma, like we said, so that brings back the study of 70 years. So the olive oil, which is the Chachma, enlivens the dead, and it elevates the sparks, elevates the life force of this of the level of das, and automatically brings back all the level of the midos, all the seven midos times 10 of the 70 years, because Chachma is the opposite of forgetfulness, because there was no breaking of the vessels by the level of wisdom at all. And the reason for 70 years, that the 7 lower levels, each one is included of 10. The forgetfulness falls by them, falls to them. By wisdom has the ability to enliven the dead, to return what was forgotten of the 70 years. And look what it says in the Mamer about remembering what a Amalek did, when it explains that you shouldn't forget. A similar idea. Now we can understand the idea of making good the candles with oil and a wick, that this oil is the concept of wisdom, the general concept of wisdom, that is found to all creations in general, from the level of wisdom, that from this wisdom you'll be enlivened from the falling down, and the death, like we explained. But there's a stipulation that you have to have the nullification in existence, because the concept of nullification of the existence is the opposite of the source of the breaking of the vessels, because the light was revealed to be in existence for itself and so forth, separate from the other existence, and therefore it broke. Like it's explained in another place on the verse, that I saw someone wise in his eyes. Shlomo Melech said, that there's hope, that the fool has more hope than him. However, the Redorish, that tikva, that the hope, or the kavin, is to the ksil ha'elyon, the concept of the klippa, so that it gives a unika to klippa from chacham be'enav, somebody who's wise in their own eyes, meaning to say that they feel themselves as a yesh, so that gives a unika to klippa, and so forth. But when you have the bittul, and what's the bittul? That's that the oil gets burnt up, nullified in the candle, in the candle of the menorah. Because that's the concept of the oil, that it doesn't exist for itself, it gets nullified and included within the light. That's in the fire that's lit, hulu, and so forth. And like the idea that the different colors of the flame come from the oil, whether or not the flame is clear or dirty, as is seen naturally. But if you did not have this oil, you would not have the clarity of the light. Nim says klal at all. You wouldn't have this at all. Because the very fact that you have a shining of light, and that it's not just that there's a light, but that it shines of haka. Rak min Hashem, it's only from the oil that it gets nullified. Rak she'Hashemenu kala, but that the oil gets destroyed, v'nisraf, and burnt. V'nase eish, and it becomes fire. Ki hu nimshach achar psila v'nichlal be'eish chulu, because it's drawn after the wick and is included in the fire and so forth. So you can understand this idea above. In wisdom and the general concept of the worlds. That it's a concept of creation being nullified and so forth. And specifically the creation being going upwards back into its source, the nullification of the existence, the godem amshachas ein liyesh. This causes drawing down from nothing to something. Because you can't create something from something. You have to have a something from nothing. That meaning to say, in order to renew the creation, you have to have it nullified to its source. Otherwise, it falls dead and can't have any life. The fact that the creation is nullified to its source and recognizes that it comes from above, that gives it a life force that renews it. Just like we brought the allegory of the candle that shines because the oil is getting burnt up and nullified in the flame. And this is the concept of the light and the joy that we said before. And all of this is in the concept of Aaron that shines the light of the joy into this neshama, by the neshama first preparing itself through bittul, because elevating the candle of the is through the nullified state of wisdom, shu Hashem, which is the oil. That's what's going to bring the light and the joy from above to below. So first you have to have the yaroch and yale, and that will bring the yetiv, the simcha from above. That first you have to have the bittul from below, which is the oil. Then you'll have the light shining from above. Because the concept of the nullification of the existence to the state beyond Shora or Ein Sof B'Chachma so the will rest the infinite light in wisdom, v'nikra ora, and that's called light. That meaning to say that the light is a feminine aspect because you were nullified, so the light shines into you in the Ein Sof shines into Chachma, so Chachma then is a feminine aspect, even though it's higher and shining into us Mishamir Lebina, and from there the light shines into Bina de Atzilus, which is the concept of Simcha. So you have Ora v'Simcha, which is Chachma and Bina, Umidos Malchus Chul, and also to the emotional concepts of the attributes and the feminine aspect and so forth, and of kingship. And this is the joy in the mitzvah, as is known, that the infinite light only rests in a concept of nullification, the Hainu B'Chachma, which is the concept of wisdom, which comes in a way of nullification of the existence to the level beyond and so forth, the unknowable level, the Ein canal. Ketzer, Inyan Hashem nu Psila. We talked about the concept of the oil and the wick, that how in wisdom there was no breaking of the vessels, and that this is the concept of the oil that returns your studies, and therefore through the oil you have the purification and the elevation of the 288 sparks, and through this draws down the light of Chachma and the Simcha into Bina.